Anthony Joshua returns to the ring on Saturday, August 12th. But the opponent has changed. And now knowing why the opponent change was necessary, it appears that boxing has suffered another black eye. But that's not what this video is about. The video is about the fight with the new opponent. And the new opponent happens to be Robert Helenius. This is going to be interesting. I'm not certain about what Matchroom may have had in store when the original opponent was slated, coveted, to face Joshua for a second time in their professional careers. But this particular fight here is going to tell us a lot, because Robert Helenius has been around the block a few times. And we're going to find out exactly what Joshua has been doing in the gym with his new trainer and with a self-professed new dedication. So let's talk about Joshua versus Helenius. Boxing, the theater of the unexpected. And once again, we didn't expect the news that would come down the pike a little bit earlier this week, when Anthony Joshua's originally scheduled opponent for this Saturday, August 12th, Dillian Whyte, ended up testing positive for banned substances leading up to the fight. You can't make this stuff up, people. This is a multiple time infraction by Whyte. Some people say 3 times, some people say 4. The whole point of it is that Whyte ruined this promotion by simply being what he is, and that's a cheat. So we're glad that he's out of the picture, hopefully forever. But the show, as does life, must go on. And so now in steps Robert Helenius, the Nordic Nightmare. This gentleman is going to have a chance of a lifetime, reminiscent of a few years ago, after Jarrell Big Baby Miller tested positive in a promotion leading up to a face-off with Anthony Joshua and found himself banned for several years, and in stepped the lowly regarded at the time Andy Ruiz Jr., who ended up upsetting Joshua in his Madison Square Garden debut. Can Robert Helenius step in and do something similar? It remains to be seen, but we have to consider, why would they even select Robert Helenius and not one of the heavyweights that's on the undercard? And I had a chance to think back, reflect upon what Joshua and his people are up to, or may be up to. And this is what I've come up with. The stats pictured here on the two men show that Joshua be the younger at 33 and Helenius is 39. Helenius has 36 fights with 32 wins and 4 losses. He has 21 knockouts. Joshua has 28 fights with 25 wins and 3 losses with 22 knockouts. They both are 6'6", and they both typically weigh in over 250 pounds. Helenius, with his height and reach, which is a lot shorter than Joshua, is 79-inch reach as opposed to AJ's 82-inch reach. But this is not necessarily the tale of the real tape here. And I'll tell you why. What I'm thinking is the opportunity to face Helenius and not one of the heavyweights that was on the undercard, such as the opportunity that could have been there for Derek Chisora or Gerald Washington. Maybe Filip Hrgovic. But see, what's happening here is I believe that Joshua's people have looked back through the books. And of course, with White now being pulled out of the fight, there were other common opponents that Joshua has faced off against that were under consideration. Now, Dillian White was pulled out of this fight. But there's another fighter, Gerald Washington. Gerald has a victory over Robert Helenius. So does Dillian White. Now, Gerald Washington's victory over Robert Helenius came in July of 2019. Dillian White's victory over Helenius was in October of 2017. So if you're doing the math as a matchroom matchmaker, you're kind of figuring that two fighters that you consider Joshua to be better than beat Robert Helenius. And going into a possible potential fight later in the year or the first of yet next year against Deontay Wilder, this may be something that they would like to measure Joshua's success in common opponents. Because though Wilder hasn't faced Dillian White, he has faced both Gerald Washington, and in his last fight, he stopped Helenius in 1 round. So all of this is coming together in my mind as something that Matchroom is trying to carefully consider the next steps forward with Anthony Joshua. And that's okay, because as each man comes into this fight, Helenius just fought a few days ago. On August 5th, he took on Mika Mialonin, and excuse me if I mispronounced the name, and he had a 3rd round stoppage over that person. That was his first fight back since losing to Deontay Wilder in October of 2022. Now, both men haven't faced off against opponents since last year, outside of, Helenius fighting earlier in the week. But Joshua's last 2 fights were in August of 2022 against Alexander Usyk, and then in September of 2021 against Alexander Usyk. He lost back-to-back decisions to Usyk, the second fight being a split decision lost, but that fight still wasn't as close as a split decision. Joshua just didn't have the answers when it came down to Alexander Usyk. If this fight turns out to be a boxing match, and it very well could, will AJ be able to fashion a victory that will stimulate people to feel a chance with Wilder would be worth tuning in? If he were to go out and just totally obliterate Helenius, that would be great for him. But that's not necessarily what he needs to do, but he does need to look good. He doesn't need to come out of this with something that's still questioning his confidence or his ability to control and dictate tempo in a fight. At the end of the day, I do favor Joshua in this fight, but I'm not so certain about how he may come about. His new trainer in Derek James could provide something that will give people something to think about. And their first fight together earlier this year in April with Jermaine Franklin wasn't impressive. It was one of those types of fights where AJ just came out, did what he had to do, but at no point did Franklin look in threat of being stopped. And sometimes as the fight went on, there was no separation between the two. AJ was just longer, had a longer reach, taller, weighed a little more. But there was nothing out of that fight that said, wow, Joshua is back. We want to see what, there was nothing to really convey a change. And that was his first outing with Derek James. So this time, we'll be looking for something new. But there is a problem with that as well. The fact that Helenius is a late replacement. I mean about as late as you can get, because the fight is in 3 days. Will AJ be able to adjust? Will he have flight or fright symptoms? We don't know. Confidence symptoms. Will he be upset at the fact that the White fight fell through and it affected him some type of way mentally, psychologically? We just don't know. So that's a problem. And it's something that he's going to have to overcome. Can he do it? I believe he can. But Derek James, who's just coming off of a recent loss with his charge, is, wow. Man down, Earl Spence, with his loss in his fight against Terrence Crawford. Has James recovered? Because he hadn't had that type of situation happen to him before. There are a lot of questions on the table here, but these are the type of circumstances that you can find in the sport of boxing. I believe Anthony Joshua should prevail against Robert Helenius. But if any of those underlying factors happen to seep and creep into the psyche, the camp, the approach of AJ and his people, we could have a problem here. One of the good things is he's fighting at the O2 Arena, so he'll be in familiar grounds. And we don't know if Helenius will really be up for this. Of course, it's a great payday for him, but at the same time, he just fought. We don't know if this is one of those situations that he's suffering a letdown after just fighting only days before. But the old fighters used to fight several times in a month. So I don't want to hear any excuses out there. I want to see a performance by both men, and I want to see them give wholehearted efforts. But what do you think? This is Stormy B Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think is going to transpire with this fight coming up this weekend. Will AJ get back to the basics and get back in the win column and be prepared for Wilder later? Or maybe not. What do you think? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.